Ever hear a catchy saying and wonder where it came from? There are some unique and very old sayings that we just don't hear as often anymore. Do you know the meaning of these old sayings?
At the drop of a hat.
To jump into action without a second thought. Back in the fabulous 19th century, a hat was the ultimate signal for a thrilling race or an epic showdown. A stylish hat would be dramatically dropped or swung down in a swoosh, and just like that, the race would begin.
Like a calf staring at a new gate. This simply meant that new and novel ideas capture the attention of many people, even if they are not truly worthy of consideration.
Martin Luther used this expression about the sectaries of his time, who were carried away with the last new opinion.
They stared at a doctrine, like a cow at a new gate. Bury the hatchet. To end a quarrel or conflict and become friendly.
During negotiations between Puritans and Native Americans, men would bury all of their weapons, making them inaccessible.
Blood is thicker than water. This means that family relationships and loyalties are the strongest and most important. Even though many might think this saying means we should prioritize family over friends, it actually means the complete opposite.
The whole phrase was, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb."
It referred to warriors who shared the blood they had shed in battles together. These blood brothers were said to have stronger bonds than biological brothers. Crocodile tears, which means tears or expressions of sorrow that are insincere. Written in the 14th century, a book called The Travels of Sir John Mandeville recounts a knight's adventures through Asia.
The book says that crocodiles shed tears while eating a man.
Although factually inaccurate, the phrase, crocodile tears, found its way into Shakespeare's work and became an idiom in the 16th century, symbolizing insincere grief. Cat got your tongue? This is usually said to someone who remains silent when expected to speak.
There are two intriguing narratives concerning the origins of this saying.
The first one says that it could have come from a whip called cat o' nine tails that was used by the English Navy for flogging and often left the victim speechless.
The second one may be from ancient Egypt, where liars' tongues were cut out as punishment and fed to the cats.
Close, but no cigar. This old saying means almost, but not entirely successful. In the late 19th century, carnival games targeted adults, not children, so that the winners would get cigars instead of stuffed animals. If the person were close to winning but did not succeed, they'd say it was close but no cigar. Called on the carpet. This saying means being severely reprimanded by someone in authority.
Like many idioms, the precise origin of this one is not entirely sure.
The expression refers to a reprimand originating from when servants were called from their bare-floored quarters to get an ear-bashing from the boss in carpeted opulence. Some people have an alternative theory to its true origins. The word carpet refers to a thick cloth that could be placed anywhere, often on a table. Therefore, on the carpet meant that an issue was on the table or up for discussion. Caught red-handed. Used to indicate that a person has been discovered in or just after the act of doing something wrong or illegal.
There was an old law stating that if someone butchered an animal that didn't belong to him, he would only be punished if he was caught with blood on his hands.
He would not be punished if one was caught with the meat, but his hands were clean. Don't judge a book by its cover. It states that the outward appearance of something does not indicate its value or worth. This age-old adage dates back to the 19th century and is often attributed to George Eliot, the pen name of the renowned English novelist Mary and Evans. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Discard something valuable along with other undesirable things.
In the 16th century, most people bathed only once a year. Even when they did, the entire family bathed in the same water. Usually, the house's men bathed first, followed by other males, females, and babies. The water was so dirty and cloudy that mothers had to be careful not to throw their infants out.
Don't always harp on one string. No mortal can bear constant repetition. It's like telling someone to have a little variety. If you cannot change the subject, allow silence. Don't cry over spilled milk. This expression is old, dating back around 400 years. The English historian and writer James Howell used it in a book called Proverbs in 1659, which is quoted as, "No weeping for shed milk." Over the years, it morphed to "no use fretting over shed milk," and today, it is known as "there's no use crying over spilled milk." Eat humble pie. To be forced to make a humble apology and accept humiliation. In the Middle Ages, there was a huge feast after a hunt. The lord of the manor would receive the finest piece of meat, and the ones with a lower status would eat a pie filled with entrails and innards, which were also known as umbles. Those who would eat the umble pie were considered to be humiliated since it symbolized their lower status. Another old saying is, feeling under the weather, which means not feeling well.
This is another one of those old sayings that come from the sea.
Sailors would rest under the bow of a ship if they became seasick during a voyage. This was the best place as it would protect the sailor from bad weather. Those who were ill were described as being under the weather. Give the cold shoulder, which has come to mean rejecting or being deliberately unfriendly to others. This saying, currently considered to describe someone rude, was once considered an act of politeness. During medieval times in England, after everyone was done feasting, the host would give his guests a cold piece of meat from the shoulder of beef or pork to show that it was time for everyone to leave. In the nick of time, which is an action performed before it is too late. I have noticed there are lots of old sayings that relate to money and debt.
This one originated in the 18th century. People kept track of the money they owed to creditors with a stick. A nick was carved onto this stick daily, and the money was overdue. If you paid before the nick, then you didn't owe interest on the debt.
More than you can shake a stick at, which means a large amount or quantity of something. This idiom was born when farmers, who waved sticks to herd sheep, would have more sheep than they could control. One for the road. It usually means the final drink before leaving a place. During the Middle Ages, the condemned were taken to their execution through what is today known as Oxford Street. During this final trip, the cart would stop, and they would be allowed to have one final drink before their death.
Do you have an old saying you grew up with in your family?
Let us know in the comments.